Welcome to Chris and Jen in the morning.
Where it's always morning somewhere. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jen. And we are super excited to have you here today.
I am super excited because you guys are back from vacation. You were gone for what felt like forever. We usually don't go that long without talking or FaceTiming or, being
we
involved.
did talk. We did talk while I was gone. We did. I probably talked to you more than I talked to anybody else.
Oh, make me feel special.
We were a little bit out of range in places. But it was really good to be gone. We were gone for 3 weeks or something close to that. When it was time to come home, I said, what if we just cancel our flight and stay? But we came back. So
as witnessing you here.
Yeah. Our producer said I would like to sleep in my own bed, and
that is the one thing with vacation, right? Like there are certain things that you do miss about home, and one of them is generally your bed.
I mean, I was just on an adventure of a lifetime, particularly the last week of our trip where we stayed in a different town every night. And most of those adventures were fantastic, and some of them were a little bit terrifying. But it was absolutely wonderful. So more about that. But first, should we start out with our gratitude moment?
Yes, let's do it.
All right, kick us off.
All right. So I recently joined a book club because I've told you that I've really gotten into Audible, and so we started a book club at work, and I joined that. And it's like extracurricular, like it's not really a work related thing. And so getting the opportunity to experience these different books, things that I probably would not have naturally gravitated towards, but because people have thrown out these recommendations, so I've added them to my wish list and my to buy list. And I just finished the second book that we're going to talk about, and the first one was not a fan. This one I'm sharing with everyone, anyone who I know is into reading. So I'm grateful to have found a group that is passionate about reading and who have good book recommendations, and I'm getting to expose to material that I probably wouldn't naturally gravitate towards.
I love that. Is this like a virtual book club or like a in-person book club?
Virtual. We do if you're near the office, you can come in and we all take it from the same space, but because we are across the United States, we generally keep everything hybrid.
That's super awesome.
Yeah.
So my gratitude moment, I think there's so many things to be grateful for, but just taking the opportunity to connect with nature. I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to step away from kind of the day-to-day suburbia life and get out by the water and the trees and walk through the fairy forest and look at all of the rocks in the water, because somehow that makes the water way more interesting. And just getting to reconnect with the earth just brings this sense of calm and peace, and I'm just incredibly grateful that I have the opportunity to step away and go do that. So that's my gratitude moment today.
Well, we're going to spend a lot of time in your gratitude moment because I want us to talk about where you went, what you did, whatever you're willing to share, because I think it leads to this bigger topic around mental health and your ability to step away and kind of be refreshed and rejuvenated. And just like you were saying, reconnecting in a different capacity and kind of allowing your mind, body, and soul to be rejuvenated. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Where did y'all go? If you're willing to share, what are you willing to share?
So we flew out to San Diego, and we took the ferry over to Coronado Island, and I insisted that we walk all the way across the island,
Sounds like
and
Jen.
that's right. And Coronado Island is just filled with all of these beautiful flowers and all of this different architecture. And it was like, here we are just traipsing along, and I am like taking a picture of every flower in everybody's yard. It was just really wonderful to stop and literally smell the roses. And
Yeah.
um, we had this pizza that had pineapple jam on it, and I wondered why we were not all eating pizza with jam on it, because that was incredible. Um, and then the ferry ride was fun. And then the next morning, we got on a cruise for a conference in the industry that I have worked in for my career. And I got to spend some time with just some of the brightest, kindest thought leaders in my space. And that was just really like fulfilling, genuinely amazing people that I got to know on a personal level. And then also getting to, you know, talk about things that really make you think
Yeah.
um, was refreshing. Um, we we took the cruise from San Diego up to Vancouver,
Oh,
and
fun.
we stayed. So my older sister, her partner lives in Vancouver, and
Okay.
so she lives in Seattle, and so she drove up to Vancouver, met us there. We rented a high rise in Burnaby, and it was just amazing views of the city, the water, the mountains. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. And we just sort of explored and enjoyed. We went to, I think, Van Dusen Gardens, and I took pictures of every flower 75 times and enjoyed every moment of it. And it was just incredible. Um, I actually got to meet my sister's partner, who I had not yet met, and that was a really exciting experience. She's absolutely wonderful, and just getting to spend time. I hadn't seen my sister in like 4 years,
Oh, wow.
so getting to actually spend time with her was incredible. And then we all drove back down to Seattle and rented a place in Queen Anne, which was just, it was this historic home. The owners of the home one of them is an artist and a writer, and her home was just so like inspiring and peaceful. And I just was so incredibly grateful that we got to stay there. I just felt so rejuvenated and relaxed and inspired. And she had her art hanging all around, and it was just incredible. And I never wanted to leave. It was it was wonderful. And then what else? We went to, of course, the gardens in Seattle. We went to Pike's Place Market. I mean, I'd never been to Seattle before.
Oh,
Yeah, this was a first. I'd never been to Canada, so that was a first. So this was all amazing. And again, just getting to like spend time with my sister and
yeah.
my husband and just kind of be unplugged was really incredible. We had stuff we wanted to do, but we didn't have an agenda, so it was just kind of like go with the flow. Um, and then we left Seattle, rented a car, and drove down the Oregon coast and the Northern California coast to Sacramento. So we stopped in a different place each night, and there was new stuff to see. And I was in adventure gen mode, and um, it was just incredible. I think what I love about the Oregon coast is, first of all, the weather was amazing. Like, it was this cool, breezy, lovely, temperature. And you, like, you walk through a forest that looks like a fairy forest that's got moss on the trees and these crazy trees growing in all kinds of directions, and all of these like different types of ferns, and um it really just looks like a place for fairies. And so you go, half mile, a mile through the forest, and you get down to the coast. And there are all these like rocks and coves with all these hidden secrets in them. And, little caves and such. And there's just so much to explore. And the beaches just look so pristine and beautiful. And I mean, it was just absolutely magical and incredible. And, um, I hiked my little tushy off, and it was just amazing. I may have gotten a little bit of sun because I just wanted to see what was around the next corner.
Yeah.
And it was also just really amazing to spend time exploring with my husband, and just kind of being, disconnected from all of the responsibilities and the, monotony of the day to day life. That was amazing. We then stayed in a historic hotel in the Redwood Forest, and that was just charming, absolutely charming. And then we drove down to Sacramento and flew home. So here we are. It was a whirlwind trip, and I'm ready to go back.
I was about to say you recapped it so quickly, but like it felt so much longer, and the pictures that you guys shared, the little videos, like it was just great to see y'all like enjoying life. Like I loved
Yeah.
the pictures that Ace would send, like where like, oh, Gen adventure mode activated, and you're like walking towards the water. Like it was just great. Like you definitely looked in your element, and just a level of excitement and refresh. So
Yeah, it was great. I remember you asked me before we left, like, what is it that I needed you to do, that I would normally be doing as half of this production, and I was like, oh no, I don't need you to do anything that I would normally do. I'm gonna do it all, and then like I did not. Uh, and you just picked it right up, which I so appreciate. But going in, I thought, no, I'm gonna just keep doing what I'm doing, and then here I am in the middle of it, and I am just completely disconnected from everything else that's going on, and just plugged into like in the moment
yeah,
where I'm at, which I think is like. I think that's so important to push yourself to make time to do,
yeah,
because if you don't step away, then you can't take that time to just kind of create the white space in your brain and in your soul so that you can have the capacity to be inspired.
yeah. So like whenever you all were planning this trip, like I know it had been in the works for a little while, but like you both are fairly busy people. We do this as like a passion project, but you also have like the real life that you are doing. Like how did you go from that place of like I have things to do and things to get done to what do we want to do today? Like how do you like how did you make that shift?
Yeah, this was a bit of a different adventure for me because I had been really distracted by this headspace that I had been in, um, because of this big change that I had made in
Mhm.
life recently. And normally, what I would do before a trip, part of the like, it is as much fun to plan and anticipate as it is to adventure.
Yeah.
And so, normally I would be all about the plan and like really like researching everything and all of this, and I just didn't have the emotional space to
Yeah.
think about any of that. And so like we left and we didn't even have things booked for where we were going to stay,
Okay.
which I love to know what's coming next. So being untethered is not a feeling I'm super comfortable with, though I've been leaning into that a lot more the last couple of months. And um so it was a little bit different because I did not go in planning everything. I didn't even start to pack until the day before we left. So that was insane. But because I'm the person that loves to make the list and think about the packing and so that didn't happen. Uh so that was a bit crazy, a bit wild. We just sort of went with the flow, and as we went along, kind of looked at what do we want to see? What do we want to do? What can come next? Ace did a fantastic job of looking at what are some of the places that we absolutely want to see. And then, as we would move along, I'm like using Google Maps to see what might be around the corner. And Oregon's great because they have all these like little coves and beaches that all have these really cool names, like Tunnel Beach and Hobbit Beach, that just seem like how could you miss Hobbit Beach? And
We gotta go see that.
they've got a million rocks in the water and they all have names, like Witch's Hat Rock and Three Sisters and the Table Rock and the Haystack. And, you just, I mean, like I need to see it. So, um, and then they also, as you drive along the 101, they have all of these little like overlooks to pull over and take a look at the view. And so I would just be like, look over there, let's pull over. And he would pull over and I would take 7 million pictures. And I would go, oh, look, there's this little place where I can, hike down to the beach. And I would just
I was
wander
just about to
off.
say, is that where some of those pictures came from of like you out in the
Yeah, yeah.
wilderness?
I would just wander off and I would take 10,000 photos of the rock in the water and then 10,000 photos of all of the birds. And it was just, it was great. I got to learn how to use my camera a little bit. So that was really fun. And, just kind of leaning into the connection with nature, the creativity, the like getting to like experience.
Yeah.
Um, all of that in real time, living in the moment, which is not something I do really well. So, um, I think especially because I had not planned, so I didn't know what was coming next. So I couldn't be thinking about what was coming next, which was, a good experience.
So you
Now,
do recommend like a like maybe an outline or a structure of a vacation, but maybe, being open to.
like, actually, I do think that there's a time and a place for all kinds of things. And sometimes for me, I tend to get really anxious and overwhelmed when I don't know what to do. So for me, having a plan is how I help manage kind of my anxiety, my
Mm,
overwhelm, so that I can actually enjoy what I'm doing.
yeah.
But that tendency to want to have the plan means that instead of living in the experience, I am working a plan. And so this was great because I was able to sort of live in the moment, but also I have a fantastic partner who, you know, I could rely on to help make sure that we were going to be okay with what
Yeah.
was next. And he did a phenomenal job of helping to support me so that I could just show up and enjoy, which I really, really appreciate and value. And I'm incredibly lucky to have that. Um,
That's awesome.
yeah. So I will say there were a few times when living in the moment sort of went wrong for us. like the time we got catfished by the lakeside boutique hotel that we were supposedly staying at, and we show up and it's like shacks on a beautiful lake that I didn't even take any pictures of because it was so horror movie reminiscent. And I thought, I'm trying not to be high maintenance. I can make this work. It's gonna be okay. But I'm like, I don't think I can sleep here. And Ace is like, I wondered how long it was gonna take you to come to that realization because I knew that when we like turned off the road.
He's like, when we pulled in, I knew this was not the place.
So then here we are, like frantically going, where are we going to stay the night? Like, because remember, there was nothing around. That's how we got to booking this place. But I found this place that was like an hour and a half up the road online. The pictures look nice. It has a building that's new that they've built onto the property. So we book and then we drive our hour and a half to get there. And it's 10:30 at this point when we show up. So we call the number again and it says, for after hours check in, check your email. And if this is an emergency, call this number. A hotel emergency, call this number. And we kind of look at each other and we're like, is this an emergency? Like, we're going to sleep in the car in the parking lot? Like, what do we do? So Ace calls the emergency number. The person who had answered the emergency number shows up in the parking lot. Our room is wonderful. It's enormous. It's right on the beach. It's clean. It's new. It's like great, but it's like 11 o'clock at this point.
Yeah.
And so I'm still like coming down from my adrenaline rush. We clean up, we go to bed, we wake up in the morning, and we see that we happen to be on this one of the most gorgeous beaches we've seen our entire trip. And it
Oh.
happens to be on the list of places Ace wanted to visit. And so it all ended up working out perfectly. And I was like, I could stay here another couple days. Um, and we were back in adventure gen mode. So that was a lot of fun. But
And off she went.
yeah. So I guess the moral of the story is if you choose to live in the moment and not plan, just plan to be resourceful.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if because of this life change that occurred a few months ago. Whenever I was doing some research, I found that a lot of people within the United States don't take time off.
Yeah.
One of the reasons that they don't is because they don't feel like they can truly disconnect from work. They're either going to have to be logging in, checking email, doing something
Yeah.
like that. And that does take up like part of your brain, right? Like it's not like you
It really
truly
does.
get to disconnect. So I wonder if like you were better able to like find that balance because you didn't have like that stuff clogging your mental capacity. Like, oh, I can be adventure gen because I don't feel so tied to something else.
Yeah, I think I remember it was probably, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. I was on vacation. Maybe it wasn't quite 15 years ago. It was probably 10 years ago or so. I was on vacation. I was at Disney World. This was my first trip to Disney World. And so it was 10 or 15 years ago. And I was so excited. I had done all of the planning. I mean, I had spreadsheets, I had watched all of the videos. I was just so excited because I'd never been and I always wanted to go. And our son was younger. And so I got to not only go and experience it myself, but like watch him experience it. And like this was just the most exciting thing
Yeah.
and something I never thought that I would have reached a point where I could do. And so I'd taken a week off so that I could go to Disney World. And I'm in the middle of the Magic Kingdom on this beautiful day on a work call talking about an audit that was failed. And I just like had this realization of like, what am I doing? Like, why am I missing out on this experience that like is a like life goal for me to talk about this internal audit that failed. Um, like, what am I doing? And I that moment was one of those pivotal moments that I continue to keep that feeling, and I can like kind of see myself from, the outside looking down in that moment. And it's a reminder for me that like I have agency of myself. These are my choices.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't feel like you have a choice. I think sometimes it comes across to some people like, oh, you think you're so important that you just can't be away or the whole world is going to fall apart. It's
Yeah.
not at all how I felt. It was like, I don't deserve, who am I to think that I deserve to get to step away and leave things that I would normally take care of to somebody else? Um, and like the fact of the matter is, not only do you deserve it and you owe it to yourself, but you actually will be a better version of yourself if you take the time to step away. You will be more capable. You will be better. And I think
Yeah.
that that is something that, at least in the places that we spent time working together, that was not like a cultural norm that we were taught. It very much like the behavior that you saw was that people were always connected, and that was being responsible and being committed to your career, was always being available, always being connected. And,
Yeah.
to go on vacation and not be reachable, like that was something that meant you didn't care about your career. You weren't committed. And so I started to realize like I'm the one in control of this.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that since that moment I practiced it super well, but I started realizing that I needed to work on that. So I got to a place where I did a much better job of that way more often. But I do think this time I didn't have hanging over me like, what am I going to have to come back to?
Yeah.
Um, and so that was nice. But I also think like I knew that mentally, emotionally, like just in my soul, I needed to be present in the moment. And if not now, then when?
Yeah.
And I also think like I was in a place that I couldn't help but get wrapped up in the adventure of it. This may not have been my husband's ideal vacation, but it was absolutely my ideal vacation to just go explore something that I had never seen before. What's around the corner? Like that is always what I want to find out. Just what's around the corner, what's in the cave, what's in the next cove,
Yeah.
Um, so I think and then I was learning how to use my camera that I got last year for my birthday. And so I had something to kind of like a challenge. To, so I think that kept me busy as well.
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about self-care, right? And about the importance of like being aware. Because when we are self-aware of things, like that's when we can start to make those changes within how we show up or engage or however you want to look at it. Um, and so I know that we've previously spoken about how you connect, like water is important to you, like connecting, like going to the beach, the sand, the waves, the water. And so that's like just replenishing to you. It is an
Yeah.
opportunity to feel refreshed. So like now that you're back, are you feeling like in that more creative space you're looking for opportunities to kind of give that energy?
I mean, I think I am incredibly blessed, and we've worked very hard for the life that we've had. We've fought, for it. Um, I still kind of stand back and I never thought that we would reach the place that we are now. And I'm grateful for it. And because of some of the experiences that we've had, I certainly don't take it for granted. But coming home was hard. Like, it was the end of an adventure that I was not yet ready to have ended. So, I missed our kid. I missed the dogs. All those things. But I wasn't quite I missed you, of course, but you were with me. Um,
Always.
but I wasn't quite ready for the adventure to be over, and so I think coming home back to reality was hard for me, and, I think subconsciously, I let that sort of lead my attitude, and, that was not bringing the best version of myself. And so I do feel like I'm in a better place than I was when I left.
Yep.
Um, I feel more at peace than I did before and ready to kind of tackle this next phase of life. I also think I was in a really interesting place where I needed the distraction to kind of reset and let things settle subconsciously within me so that I could come back, a more a version of myself that was truer to who I really am at my core instead of kind of all of the changes that are going on in my life
Yeah.
sort of amping up all of my anxiety. Um, so I think, I do feel a little more I feel a little closer to who I really am than I did before I left, which is good. And they talk about how important it is to take time just away. And I always thought before about taking time away from my job. Um, but this time it was really taking time away from just my everyday routine, my
Yeah.
reality, all the things that are going on in life. I think that is just as important to just take time away so that all those things you've been chewing on and working through in the back of your mind, you just get to set them down, and then you create the white space or the mental capacity to come back and be more intentional
Yep.
about how you want to approach what's next. Um, and I think that's really important to do. I think that is how we take back the power of how we want to show up every day is by giving ourselves permission to just step away. And
Yep.
for me, that was not only giving myself permission, but it was knowing that I could rely on the people that I've surrounded myself with, like you, to take care of, this stuff while I
Yep.
was gone. And then, and not allowing myself to feel guilty about that. And then, my husband, who I knew was going to be right there with me, helping in the moment to make sure that we could really enjoy the time that we
Yeah.
spent. So,
Yeah. I love that you hit on that idea of um, putting stuff down, stepping away, and then having more of that self reflection time. um, I've read a lot of stuff that talks about how going away, whether that's like a big vacation or a small
yeah.
staycation, um, it creates that space in your brain. And I think a lot of things that I was seeing refers to it as like mind, body, soul, mentally, physically, spiritually. But what's interesting is like when it comes to the soul piece or the spirituality of it, it's talking more about like that core self, like where we create where the questions of like um, what do I really want out of life? What's important to me? Like, it's not until we can get into that space that we can really enter these reflective moments. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, you kind of are in a place where there's a lot of things, like a lot of unknowns. And I love that you were able to step away. I love that you were able to go like
Yeah.
reconnect with nature and family and friends, and you were really able just to embrace that because I do think just everyday life does get overwhelming. And I so appreciate you saying like you guys have worked hard to get where you are, and I so agree with that. And not everyone is as able to do those things, big grandiose vacations, but it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be the getaways to give that space. It can be staying at home and just like going through things and sorting through things and throwing things out if needed, because it's breaking up that like everyday schedule, that
I th
creates that space.
I do think that there was something important for me in getting away from my normal surroundings to get myself out of the like, in order to take myself out of the thought pattern that I was in, I
Yeah.
needed to be away from the surroundings that I am always in, and, you know, the way my brain works, novelty is something that I need. And so something new, something, to experience something new, something I haven't seen before, what's around the corner, like that's something that I really crave and need. And so getting away from my normal was important. But I also think, like, look, we went to 2 arboretums. I mean, that was what I wanted to do, and I dragged my sister and my husband with me to both of them, and I could have spent, I mean, we spent hours. I could have spent double the time there, like, taking 75 billion pictures of every single flower and bird and duck and, all the things, and just, like, adoring it all. And then I realized there are 2 arboretums, the big ones, here in the DFW area that I have never been to, and they would be novel. Well, no, okay, I went to one a long time ago, but it was literally after I had flown back from India that morning, because Ace was trying to do the things to keep me awake, and then I just got mean, and we took me home and went to bed. Um,
So you would experience it differently this
yeah,
time.
but, I think, like, I don't have to go on a vacation to experience those things. We talked
Yeah,
before about living like a tourist. There's plenty, like, I don't have to walk through somebody else's neighborhood to experience all. Now,
right.
granted, there are way more flowers on the Northwest coast than there are in where I live, just because of climate. But, you don't have to, go away to experience something novel, which, I think is important to remember. But I do think, you know, the trap is that we keep ourselves super busy so that we don't really have to get in touch with what's inside that inner self. And I just ran out of excuses to keep myself really busy. And I think this was while I don't think I achieved that fully, I think this was a closer, like, opportunity for that. The art of meditation, I was always really confused by that before. And I think I'm much clearer now that it's really about being able to clear away all those distractions that we give ourselves so that what is within you at your center has the space to rise to the top,
Yeah.
and you can really, like, hear what you're trying to say to yourself. um and I think for people like me where meditation is hard, it's because we're distracting ourselves so that we don't have to do that. We don't have to listen and hear what it is within ourselves. And I think this was an opportunity for me to create that white space and really hear um what is it that I want to hear? What is it that I want to tell myself? What is it that I feel? And creating that safe space to have those feelings.
Do you mind if I ask, like you said, creating the white space, creating those opportunities, like how, like what was that for you?
I think just, it's the removal of all the distractions. It's um putting yourself in an environment that allows you to just stop being distracted by all the things that your mind could continue to think about. For me, the way my brain works, if there's a problem to be solved, I can't set it down very easily. I just want to sit there and chew on the problem. And, my kind of current big life thing is, like, what's next for me? I feel like I'm at a fork in the road that has many tines. And I can, I, um, I think the thing that I'm most afraid of is, what if I walk down a path that isn't really true to what I want because it feels most comfortable for me, and I miss out. Um, because, we all only have so much time, and what you spend your time doing, like, that's what you get.
Right.
And so I want to be intentional about what it is that I really want, and I've been really working on accepting the fact that I actually can have what I want instead of feeling like I'm not allowed. If it's something
Yeah.
I want, I'm not allowed to have it. And so, um, I think that's the biggest problem in my mind to solve is what do I want? And in order to figure that out, you have to be still and listen. Um, and that's hard.
Yeah.
So I think going away was an opportunity to kind of clear out all of those little things that sort of distract you, that keep you in the space that you're in,
Yeah.
so that those feelings can kind of rise to the top, and then you can come back and reflect on that.
I'm so glad you had this opportunity.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I can't wait for the next adventure, which I'm dragging you along with me. So,
You know it's going to be fun if both of us are there.
oh, yeah.
I know you had talked about like, living like a tourist. So, this weekend we are actually heading to stay with some friends in New Jersey, and we have talked about going and doing like day trips to places and areas that we've not really explored or adventured.
I
I'm
love
coming
that.
up on living here for 10 years. Frank has lived here for over 20 years, and there are still places that neither of us have been to. So we're looking forward to getting out and just like getting out of that daily routine, getting to go experience life in a different space, and also just like create the space to hang out with friends, play games, eat good food, have yummy beverages, like just really get to experience life together in a space that is not our everyday, breaking us out of our cycle and hopefully allowing us some opportunity to have some white space as well.
I love that. I love that. I think that's amazing. And um, it is so important just to take time and like reconnect. I think you've said about me that whatever it is that I go after, whatever it is I decide I want, I'm going to find a way to make it happen. Um, and I can accept that that's true. So the question is, what is it that I want? Because what if I'm spending my time making something happen and it's not what I really wanted? Um, and I think that's the question we should be asking ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
what is it that we want? And let's go make it happen. And it doesn't have to be what is it that I want 10 years from now? What is it that I want 20 years from now? Which is what, I had always been really um like focused on before. Where am I going? What's the long-term game? I need to see what the picture looks like, and I'm missing out on, the everyday moment.
Yeah.
I think the place I've come to in my life now is finally to realize, like, what is it that I want today? What is it that I want tomorrow? And like trusting that the rest will just come. Which is really hard.
Yeah.
But that's the place that I'm trying to push myself to be now, is not just short-term thinking, but like bringing that view into perspective. I remember we had somebody we worked with in who was in Chicago, and she's just a hoot. And I remember talking to her about what was it that I really wanted to learn how to do. And I said, what I really want to learn how to do is dance in the moment. And that was, I mean, like many years ago. And I feel like I'm still trying to learn that lesson of how do I
Yeah.
dance in this moment? Um, how do I dance in the rain? How do I just, let go of all of the worries about what's going to come next, what's going to happen to me? And, I think for this trip, what I can really appreciate is that Ace was very much worried about and I don't like that for him, but he was very much thinking about how to keep us like safe and cared for and all the things, and I was just, literally out there adventuring in the rain. And, he's like, put the coat on. And, I don't want you to get sick. And, it's time for you to come back now and all the things. And I'm like, I can't feel my fingers.
Next time he may get one of those like cords to have you wrap around so that he can, all right, it's time to come back now.
um, but I definitely was in an environment where I felt like I could just go like dance in the moment. And for me, the more that you experience what that feels like, the more that it can become familiar. So you can start to go, okay, wait, I've had a taste of that. So I know what it's supposed to feel like. And I think it was really about taking the time to familiarize myself with that, so that I can go after it. And I guess what I need is to really set my intention on it instead of just saying it's something I'd like. And then I'll learn how to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. I remember early in my late teens, I got to work with this woman who truly had what I think is a gift to be able to live in the moment. She could find the funny. She could find the moments of where she needed to show up for someone like a mother or show up as a friend. It was all the time. It was just her natural mode of operation. I do not operate like that. I definitely am mindful of people and try to be present. Also in my mind, I'm planning. I'm thinking if I do this, what happens next? Things that take you out of the
Yeah.
moment and what I call a lot of loud internal noise. I do find if I wake up in the morning and set the intention of we're being present, we're not putting on headphones today. We're
Yeah.
walking and going, we're not looking at your phone. I'm going to look at people in the eyes. I'm going to truly be present. Now, in the morning, it's much easier to do that. By the time I get to the end of the day, I'm usually like, nope, putting in the headphones and I'm not looking at
Well,
anyone.
you know why, right? This is something that Ariana Huffington, who wrote Thrive, and David D. Rock, one of my favorite, the guy that founded Neuro Leadership Institute, one of my favorite thought leaders, they talk about is that you do your best thinking in the morning in the shower, or you have your creative moments in the morning because while you've been sleeping, your mind has been like emptying and you're
Right.
giving yourself that free space, that white space. And so it's a brain capacity thing.
Mhm.
And that's a part of why it's so important to take time away, is because you're giving yourself that brain capacity so that you can be more intentional versus, like you said, the end of the day, like there are so many subconscious, passive things going on inside of your brain by the end of the day that sometimes you just want to like tune it all out. There's no more
Right.
capacity or space there for you to like operate well because there's a smaller percentage available for you to draw upon. And this is why, like, the old marriage advice was don't go to bed angry, like, have your arguments and finish them at night.
Yep.
And, the thought was you don't want to like let bitterness fester. But what they're saying now is like, maybe it's actually best to not fight it out at night. Get a good night's rest, and then
Yeah.
you may show up better. I mean, because you're like, you have more capacity in the morning than you do. Certainly, I can speak from experience that 2 a.m. is not the most productive time to have an argument, um, because no one shows up as their best self. um,
Very true. Very, very
Yeah,
true.
unless you're a night worker, in which case 2 a.m. may be a great time for you
Right.
because, that is your daytime. But I, you know, I saw this image that I shared with you and Ace this week that said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But first, you must unlearn who they told you to be. And I think, like, for me, that just speaks to get clear, like get time away, be free from the distraction of all the things that you think you're supposed to do and be, and spend time listening to what it is that you really want and who it is that you really are. And in order to do that, you have to take time away. You have to get space so that you can listen to yourself and have that clarity.
Yeah. I know, like, I had set the intention for this episode to like try and get people to decide to take that vacation and use those vacation or PTO days so that you're not losing them. But I like, based on like where this conversation has gone, it's almost like I want the intention to be for people to be mindful of it. Like that
Yeah.
stuff is not going to just happen on its own. You're not going to just magically have the white space to really think on those things. So be intentional about it. Be mindful that it does take being mindful,
And if
and
you're
putting
waiting
those to
for
practice.
permission, let's just give you permission right now.
Yeah,
Here is your permission to take time away, check out, because you will actually be a better version of yourself for your family, for your friends, for your own self in the mirror, for your coworkers, for, everyone around you in life, for the strangers on the street, your neighbors who you may love or may not. Like, you're going to be a better version of yourself for everyone you interact with if you prioritize making the time to step away in whatever way that looks like for you, and kind of refill yourself. Give yourself the white space to come back to who you really are versus being in the midst of all the distraction of
yeah,
life that we live in, particularly here in America, where, we tend to be overscheduled, over distracted.
yeah,
um, and and I think what you'll find is that you may get more joy out of life because instead of being so distracted by all those thoughts that run in your head so that you're missing out on the beautiful scenery that you see all around you. Like Ace and I were saying, here we are on the Oregon coast at these beaches, and people live here, but why aren't they there? Like, why is everything so empty? Because it's absolutely gorgeous. And then I was thinking, but if I lived here, like, would this not be novel? And would it just be, normal? And I would get caught up in the day to day of life and I would forget to enjoy it as much
yeah,
as I could. And so then I thought, well, why do I have to wait to be somewhere else? How can I find more of that in my everyday life? And it's by setting your intention to take time away. So if you're waiting for somebody to give you permission to take time away so you can be a better version of yourself, whether it's from your job or the responsibilities at home or whatever, like, here's your permission. Go check out so that you can check back in a better version of you.
yeah. And we want to hear from you. Share with us like what that experience was like, and did you find yourself scheduling? Did you find yourself just going with the flow? Like, we want to hear from you. How do you make this happen for yourself? And you can,
Yeah.
depending on what platform you're listening to us on, you can drop it in a comment. You can also email us at chrisjeninthemorning@gmail.com. You can also leave a voice or text at 940-278-8129.
Yes, we would absolutely love to hear from you. And we wish you lots of good recharging energy vibes and hope that you are feeling more inspired to go recharge.
All right. With that, a final welcome back home to you and Ace. Happy to have you
Thank
back.
you.
And we will see all of y'all in the next episode.
Bye.